Now, I'm going to ask you a tough question. I laugh though because I've experienced this myself. You went from something you loved doing, and your passion for teaching and really helping people on their journey and becoming successful is totally evident. Like you light up when you talk about it. And even when you and I are just chatting one to one, when you talk about your time as a professor, you always totally light up. Then you switch into a leadership role, and not just a leadership role, the leadership role. So you become the person at the end of the day who's overseeing the whole organization. As you know, not everyone who's good at one thing is going to be good at the next thing that's attached to it. And as an example, as I've mentioned on the show many times, and as you know, my background is being a therapist. And one of the things that I disliked the most about working as a therapist was working in the not-for-profit system, because I found that people who were fantastic therapists were terrible leaders. And being good at one thing doesn't make you good at leading the people who do those things. So for you, the shift from being a professor to the president, what was that like for you personally and professionally?
I mean, it was a massive change in my entire lifestyle, right? Everything basically changed from more or less one day to the next. But I think I was very conscious about this step, because exactly what you just talked about, I mean, it was something that I also talked about in my MBA teaching, for example, right? So I think I had the theoretical understanding of some of the challenges. And I also went in there with this very clear idea that this is for you a journey, especially a learning journey, right? So I constantly also try to, I mean, seek out feedback, understand, okay, how did you actually act in this particular situation? What went well? What did not go so well, right? I think this is also some of the feedbacks that I'm getting from the supervisory board, right? That they are struck by the fact how reflective I am about some of these aspects. And I also went in there with this very clear idea that especially at the beginning, you are going to make mistakes, right? And that it's all about, I mean, rectifying and then learning from these mistakes. But having said all this, right, what really helped me was truly this understanding, right? If I don't like it or if I suck at it, I can always go back. And I think that's a huge difference between a career in the corporate world and a career in academia, right? In the corporate world, right, if you move up, you cannot step down again, or it's very, very difficult. And that helped me a lot, right? But I think you need to have this really clear understanding, right? Whenever you change, right? That what is going to make you successful or even happy in the next step is not going to be the stuff that made you happy before or successful.
Yeah. Do you mind if I share a little bit of my
Yes,
story?
of course.
When I was a therapist, and especially because I came from punk and hardcore and skateboarding, I had this really critical view of leadership. And I had at the time, I didn't realize were opinions. I had at the time what I thought were the facts, which is like, I know better than you. Like, I'd always look at my bosses and be like, why are they doing it like this? They should do it like that. Uh, until I became a leader for the first time, and I stunk. I was terrible at it. My first leadership role was a mid-level management role, and I did the classic things that you do. You try and be everybody's buddy. You try and be the cool boss, and all the things I did were literally every wrong thing that you could possibly do. And I hated it. I was in that position for less than 2 years. Couldn't handle it. I thought it changed changed the way that I think about leadership. It gave me a lot more humility because it was truly probably the first thing I really failed at in my life, and I had a ton of humility about it, but also a lot of insight that being a leader is really hard, and you're learning. But you're learning on a public platform where every single mistake can be microanalyzed and judged by all of the people that you're learning in front of.
I agree, right? And also, what I also found, I mean, really, really difficult was, I mean, I also came to this job with this clear idea that if you're a leader, right, it's not a popularity contest, because you will make unpopular decisions. That's by the end of the day what you get paid for. right? I mean, there are all these ideas also in our research on the problem-solving hierarchy, right? And on and on and on. So I had this very clear idea that when you go in there, you cannot be the body of everyone. There are going to be people who will not like you, who are not going to appreciate the decisions that you're making, for better or for worse. And that was also my big fear, right? Coming into this, maybe I just want to be popular, right? Because we talked about the academic community before, and there, I mean, what I really enjoyed that I was actually suddenly a popular kid in that particular subculture, not just in the sidelines, but right in the middle of this. And this is something that I really enjoyed. And I always had this nagging doubt, maybe I just want to be popular, right? And if that's your perspective, if you want to be popular, I think you will find it very difficult to be a good leader.
It's well, and I think everyone knows you come up with that idea. It's like, oh, you can't be everyone's friend. And as you're saying, it's like the research would tell you this, but there's that human desire to be liked by people. And when you have to come in and make a tough decision, if you have to do something as even as simple as changing schedules,
yes,
like it's a huge thing.
Yes.
So starting from the simplest point of view, you said it was like, it really changed your life. How did you, as a person and as a family person, as a professional, and just as like a person in the world, how did you cope with that change of lifestyle and that change of responsibility and focus?
I think, I mean, first, family was really important for me, right? So also what I also said was that when I end my tenure, whenever that might be, I still want to have a family. So I always try to also have a focus on my family there, right? Spending less time, right, on your hobbies, spending less time on other subcultures, really spending time with the family. I think that was very useful for me. Second, really, I mean, embracing the challenge. I mean, going in there without any regrets, right? Without any looking back and really embracing this opportunity. And third, I mean, what was also a strong motivator for me was essentially enjoying the ride. I think, right, one of the things that I said back then also to some of my friends and also to some of the students, right? I think for me, what makes life interesting is the variance, the change, right? Doing different things. Because if I think back, right, when was a time that I felt most alive? And there was always a time when there was change in my life, right? A new job, a new town, a new kid, a new house, a new career, right? And that is what I was looking out for. So I was really looking out for this excitement, also the uncertainty, the anxiety. But I think that is something that really makes us livable. So going in there with this really embracing the challenge, right? That's, I think, how I was able to cope with this. And the first year in my presidency was really tough. I mean, we moved into a new campus. We made a fairly substantial financial loss in my first year of the presidency. And I had to make some very tough calls. Right. So after a year, I realized, okay, right, you do enjoy this, and you are actually also pretty good at